Ask Hekate whether it is better to be rich or starving. She will tell you that the rich send her a meal every month and that the poor make it disappear before it is even served. Hekate's supper, or dipnon in Greek, is a known practice among many Hecatean practitioners today. But what are its origins? How can we celebrate it today? And what can it teach us about the virtue of compassion? According to the Athenian calendar, the last day of the lunar month was dedicated to purification and to the memory of the dead. The house would be cleaned and fumigated to purify it from miasma, so the spiritual pollution in basic. The leftovers from offerings and the sweepings and the ashes from the fumigations, together with a pottery shard that was used as a censer, would be discarded at a nearby crossroad. Together with this, a food offering for Hekate and the souls of the restless dead would be taken there. The ancients believed that the crossroads were haunted by the restless souls of the untimely dead. Restless or untimely were supposed to be those who would die too young. That means before they reached their life's goal. This meant especially girls and women who died before they could become a mother. Also, those who died a violent death in war or by criminal means were supposed to not be able to cross the river Styx, so were not able to continue on to the afterlife. Those spirits were thought to be jealous of the living because they would not reach their life's goal, and therefore were thought to be dangerous. Like Momo or Lamia were spirits who would prey on and harm children, or Empusa, who was believed she would ambush wanderers at night. So the food offerings were basically intended as a bribe to keep these dangerous ghosts at the crossroads and away from your own home. And we can assume that Hecate's connection here was as the guide of souls. She was thought she could hold back the dangerous spirits just as well as she could send them. Let's return to the quote from the beginning. It is a line from the play Plutus by the Athenian playwright Aristophanes, and it was first performed in 388 BCE. Ask Hekate whether it is better to be rich or starving, and she will tell you that the rich send her a meal every month and that the poor make it disappear before it is even served. What does this line from this theater play tell us about Hecate's supper? So, firstly, the practice was common knowledge for Aristophanes' audience. The scene is from a comedy, not from a philosophical lecture, so everyone would have been familiar with it. Secondly, in ancient Athens, there were poor people who could not sustain themselves, people who were without support of family or friends. In fact, the entire play is about the contrast, basically, between wealth and poverty. Thus, the name Plutus, which is Greek for wealth. Thirdly, we learn the fact that poor people, or even starving people, as the protagonist puts it, would take and eat the offerings which were given by the better off people to Hekate and the dead. We have to keep in mind here that in contrast to the food offerings given to the Olympian gods at the public festivals, where only a portion of the sacrifice was burnt for the gods and the rest was shared among the community, the offerings to the underworldly gods and the souls of the dead were deemed miasmic, so ritually impure, and therefore not fit for for humans to consume, because they were thought to be dangerous. The pollution was thought to be dangerous. So we can assume only people in despair and who were hungry and starving would ignore uh, religious or societal taboo. We have no hint that the people in antiquity thought about it, but in a modern interpretation, it seems to me and to other Hecateans as well that Hecate inspired a way to support those in need via the offerings which were given to her. Compassion and charity should, of course, not be taken as a commandment, but should come as an end in itself, because it is the right thing to do. But to me, this is what Hecate is teaching us. So, for us today, Hecate's Supper is an easy opportunity for us as devotees to have a monthly devotional practice in honor of our goddess. To do so, we can clean and purify our house, our home, our sacred space, our shrine. We can give thanks to Hecate for the past month and what she taught us in the last 4 weeks. We can use this opportunity to remember those souls who have passed on, as well as our own ancestors as well. In accordance to ancient practice, we can give food offerings like garlic and onions, fruit, cheese, eggs, cookies, you name it, and give libations or give libations of wine, water, olive oil, milk. Our rite can be as small or as elaborate as it feels fitting for the situation, yet I would suggest a minimalism when it comes to the food offerings, so we can avoid wasting food. It's an offering to the gods, to honor the gods, but there are so many, as in antiquity as today, so many people who are starving, so throwing away good food is really a no-go in our time. Another common question here is, what do we do with the offerings? Where do we bring the food offerings? I would suggest a liminal space like a crossroad, a graveyard, seashore, riverbank, or anything like that. Just make sure that the offerings don't harm the wildlife, or if you live in an urban area, that they don't attract rats or other vermin. So for this reason, I myself prefer plant-based offerings. Also, please don't litter. Set down the offerings as they are, without a plate, without any paper, plastic, or anything. And please take especially care in national parks and wildlife reserves. So, about compassion, how can we include the virtue of compassion Hecate is teaching us about in the Divination celebration? Because just setting food outside, as was done in antiquity, for someone just to find it, won't work in our modern world, and also is very unsanitary and should be avoided at all costs. Let us look for practical alternatives here. In addition to our religious rite and to our religious offering to the goddess and to the spirits, we can participate in open food pantry projects. We can donate to charity, especially local charity like the local food bank, if there's something in your area. If you don't have the funds for donating hands-on work in local charity organizations like soup kitchens or homeless shelters, or even helping your elderly neighbor taking the groceries home, is very much an option to practice compassion in everyday life. Also, if you want to support people in need internationally, there are lots of charity organizations out there trying their best to help where help really is needed, and therefore I myself support Doctors Without Borders. there are so many possibilities. The possibilities are endless. So that's what I have to say in short about Hecate's Supper. If you want to know more or read more about the topic, I can suggest or recommend some reading. First is Circle for Hecate by Sarita Deste, and also Hekate Liminal Rites, also by Sarita and David Rankin. Um, Temple of Hecate by Tara Sanchez has some interesting information about the offerings we can give. If you are more interested in the Hellenic background, there are two books. First is the practical Hellenic polytheism household worship by the Athens-based community LABRIS, and about the ancient Greek belief in ghosts and spirits and the like, and Hecate's connection to them. My absolute go-to is Restless Dead by Sarah Johnston.